Estate planning documents are not like tax returns. You don't need a history unless you need a history. A lot of times people come along and they go, why did Dad do that? Or why did Grandpa do? What was the plan? Or what I like to say, what is the genesis? We're going to talk about estate planning documents, what you need to keep and why you need to keep them on Consider This Program today. Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I am your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Jamie Burton.
We are talking about timing is everything. You know, my Uncle Bill came back from World War II and kept every single check he ever wrote. We get to go through probably 50 years worth of checks when he passed. It's interesting the things that I see people have kept, you know, and why they've kept them, and it just, you know, sometimes it cracks me up. And you know, Jamie's generation, they don't keep anything, right? Because it's got to be electronic somewhere, and
yeah,
till you lose the 250 letters you've written to your trust, and then you go, wish I'd have printed those things off, right?
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's a horse of another color and a different story. So when we talk about not needing to keep your documents until you need to keep your documents, right? Mm-hmm. What documents do I need to keep and where should they be?
Yeah, so you want to keep all of your estate planning documents. So your will, if you have a trust, your...
Would you ever have both?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have both, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's called a pour over will, P-O-U-R,
mm-hmm.
that says anything I forgot to put in my trust, please do. So will, trust.
Yep, your if you have a living will, your healthcare directive, power of attorney, those are documents that you want to have. You want to know your family to know where they are, where they can find them. You don't want to wait till the last minute where something happened to you and they just don't know where to go to find those documents and know your wishes.
So it doesn't happen as much anymore. Mm-hmm. You may have never even seen it, but in the old days, like my beginning of my career, people would often keep those in a lockbox at a bank. This is not the best plan, ladies and gentlemen. So we've got a couple different places where we keep all of your documents. So our families go to Florida. Every now and then somebody will call. They had to go to the hospital. They needed a durable power of attorney or healthcare directive. We're able to, email it straight down to the hospital, mm-hmm. To be able to get the stuff done. But having an electronic portal to be able to get to those documents when you need them is pretty good. Every now and then we'll see somebody carry them with a thumb drive that they can just stick into the computer and get it. If you're the one in the car accident, they're not looking for a thumb drive, just saying. So it's one of those things you need to consider, but make sure people know where those documents are and that they're accessible when you need to have them.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So why would I ever keep an old estate planning document?
Because Genesis is so important, and Genesis, it's not just a book in the Bible. It's how did we get to where we are? Why did I make the decisions that I made to get the documents put together that I put together? Why did I make these decisions? So knowing where things started helps you with decisions moving forward when those decisions need to be made.
It's all those letters that I wrote,
mm-hmm.
right, about why I made changes. When the genesis of the Financial Enhancement Group, right? I moved to Benton County, Indiana. I left Delaware County, went to Muncie Northside High School, moved to Benton County. It's 1983, I guess 83. And I fell in love with farmers, knew nothing about farming, right? I went from debate to FFA in one day. And we lost two big farm families in 83 or 84 because the farm was in Dad's name. And Dad died, and Mom didn't have the ability to pay estate tax, right? And so the farms had to be sold. Farms, one case, I think one of them was in the family for over 100 years. I mean, it just seemed to me to be so wrong. And so I went to college to become an estate planning attorney. And while I was at the university, Reagan changed the tax code. And so things got better. Both of the farms would have been saved if the people would have been 24 months older before they passed. Again, that doesn't seem fair, but that is the way that this world works. So, here we are today, and we went from having what's called a $600,000 unified credit, or it's exemption equivalent is what that totals. The amount of tax that was actually paid for you was like $192,800. But what everybody talked about was $600,000. It went from $600,000 to $1 million, I think it was 3 million, then 3.5, and in 2021 we're at $11.5 million a piece, and now we have the pro rata, or the ability to assign to another spouse even if they didn't use the stuff. A lot of things have truly improved, but there are many old documents that are out there that just aren't up to date, and so some people will destroy them. One of the ugliest things that I see is when people keep life insurance policies that are no longer valid. Right? They've either cashed them in or the company's been bought or sold. And you need to, if you want to keep it, if you're one of those, I want to keep all the paper, you need to put a note on it so that your kids know, not to expect $1 million. I've watched this happen where people thought we had the $1 million. We didn't have the $1 million. The policy wasn't the policy expired when you quit working, right? Mm-hmm. It happens all of the time. So when you look at the estate planning documents, Jamie, what's in there that really matters, and who do you need to tell?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, some of the important things that are in the documents, the beneficiaries, who gets the assets when something happens to you. You need to look at, are there rules for how the assets should be distributed? Should it be distributed all at once, or is there rules on different timing of when those assets should be distributed? Are you wanting to leave assets to charities? What assets specifically go to those charities? Who is in charge? So if you have a trust, who is the trustee and who's in charge of making sure all those wishes are carried out? If you have a healthcare directive, do you want to be put on life support? Do you not? Different things like that. We do have a trust checklist that we can go through. You can find on our website, yourlifeafterwork.com, to go through the things to look for in a trust, or to make sure if you have a trust that those things are listed in there.
So understand, we're not attorneys. We don't play one on TV or radio or in a newspaper column, right? I want to be very, very clear about that. Mm-hmm. We do have an attorney on team, and we do work with a lot of very fine estate planning attorneys that are out there. But it is important that, in my mind, there are some key, FAQs, we'd call them in some things, frequently asked questions, where people need to understand who a grantor is, who a beneficiary is. Those are some basic things. One of the things that I really like to teach people, though, is to understand, what do you need to communicate to the different parties that are involved? Mm-hmm. Most beneficiaries, according to the life insurance industry, this still cracks me up, but the life insurance industry will tell you that most beneficiaries are deceased. Now think about that, right? And it's because people age and they forget to change, right? They've got a $10,000 policy. One of their kids was killed in a car wreck, or their spouse died, and it never got updated, never got changed. Inside of your trust, if you have one, or inside of your will, if you have that, you've got an executor or executrix, I guess it's pronounced, the female part of that, or a successor trustee inside of your trust. And whether or not they are dead or not, I can't tell you, but many of them are mentally or physically incapacitated, and nobody's updated the document. This is not, when you get into estate planning and the timing is everything, this is not one of those things you can check off and be done with, right? It is an every 2 to 3 year thing you probably need to reevaluate. We're making major changes to mine this year, just because of where we are in the tax code and things that are going on inside of the business and the company and the age of the girls, and all sorts of stuff that's out there. You just need to be able to have it updated to know what's going on. But it doesn't have to, it's not part of the legalese. I intend to write a letter again to my trust to explain to my spouse, Barbara, to explain to my beneficiaries, Kaylee and Kendra, and to explain to my successor trustees, the Financial Enhancement Group, right, that this is why I did what I did. And this is the strategy that I wanted to deploy. This is the genesis, if you will, of what's going on. And I think so many times people just do estate planning documents, and they think they can sign off. We saw one. We've seen one this year where the documents were done before I got into the industry, 1985. And it's kind of like, yeah, has anything changed? That didn't mention kids that have already been there. They've already had the kids. Kids have grown up. Kids have got married. They have grandkids, and there's no mention of any kids, right? And it's kind of like, no, people, this is not how this is supposed to work. So we really, really, really do want to get into that. How often you have to update your legal documents really does change based on what's going on inside of your life. It's not tax planning where it has to be done every year. But when there is a major change, then you need to have a process in place that says, here's where we go. Like Jamie said, you can go to our website at yourlifeafterwork.com, get our trust checklist, right? Understand who the players are. I think the beneficiaries need to know an approximate amount of what is coming and when, right? To understand what it's there. I don't want my kids to know I have $1 million. I get it. Really. I get it. But believe me, you don't want the $1 million wasted or blown either, right? So they need to be somewhat aware of what it is. Your successor trustees or your executor needs to understand what your wishes are. It needs to be clear. And so many times people are afraid to put anything with the document that's not been notarized or signed by an attorney or anything else. As long as you're not changing the beneficiaries, as long as you're not changing the successor trustee or really the terms of the trust, the fancy words precatory, if you're simply providing guidance to the people who are going to administer, I don't think it's a problem putting it with there. But I do have sealed envelopes. I did have sealed envelopes. Nothing like losing all of that work. But anyhow, this time they will be in writing. Sealed envelopes, it says, to my niece, to my nephews, to my daughters, to my wife. Knowing me, I'll write one to my dog. That if something happened, here's what I was thinking. Here's the strategy. Here's what you need to know. So go to Genesis, get it, figure out why it is you did what you did. Make sure that it still matches the documents that you have today, that your wishes that you have today match the documents you have today. Make sure you connect those Pokey-Tots. Go to yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for a Next Steps meeting. We are not attorneys. We do have one, but we will help you try to understand what you have and where you want to go.